Welcome to the Mountain Man Chronicles. Live, learn, and explore.
I was recently asked, how do you plan all your overland adventures? So I like to do at least 4 or 5 trips during the summer, another 2 or 3 trips during the fall, and then wind it down to 2 or 3 trips in the winter. So planning for all that adventure does take some effort. And what this video about isn't really about tools like Gaia, tools like other things. It's more about how do you go about and plan your adventure, and how do you schedule that out to know what you're going to do so you can have others join you so they can plan in advance. So now this is the time of year to do that, right? So it's starting to wind down, it's fall, Thanksgiving's right around the corner, Christmas is coming. This morning it was 20 degrees outside. I do overland in the winter, but not quite as much as I do during the summer. So what I do during the winter is I plan for my journeys next year. So I'm going to take you through today is how do you plan that? How do you outline what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and share it. I plan out how I travel in 3 different areas. First is the idea stage. I take an idea, it may be something I heard about, something I've read about. It could be YouTube videos I've seen that I've had. It could be geographic interests that I'm interested in that I want to go see, especially being new here to South Dakota. So I call that the idea stage. We're going to talk more about that. How do you take that idea? That way you can come back at the end and say, I love it when a plan comes together. The second area is the planning stage. What do you do in that planning stage? And what do you look for in that planning stage? How do you share that plan to get others bought in so if they want to travel with you? And then the last one is putting the rubber in the road, really, is how do you take that idea, initially the plan, and then how do you execute it on it, get others on the adventure, schedule it out, and share it, and get people bought in, and get a hard schedule. So I'm going to talk you through how I do this. Some of the tools I use is not mapping and routing. I have a separate video on that, and there's a lot of videos out there on how to just route with Gaia, with Garmin, and various others. I have one myself that you can watch in the link below. But this is more about how I share it, how I disseminate, how I get people bought in, what apps I use, what content I use to share a plan and get it out there. I'm also going to share some of the ideas and how I did it. I'm going to use 2 trips as an example how I brought this to fruition. I hope you liked today's video, and if you do like it, I'd love to hear from you how you go about planning and scheduling your trips. Put it in the comments below. Get other people to listen about it. I may actually use it in a future video. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks. So let's click into the idea stage. The idea stage is probably one of the funnest, right? Because there's so many places to go and so little time to get there. I find places throughout the year, right? I'll hear from friends, I'll see YouTube channels, reading, not to mention just my natural curiosity of all things around me. For example, places I have on my list that I'm not going to get to in 2024 is go back to run Rubicon again, go throughout some of the California trails that I do miss so much. Area 51 and Alien Cafe along Route 66. I just love the Overland Route 66, explore some of the desert. A lot of my prioritization is geographic, right? So what's new, what's exciting? So for example, last year, we went out to Wyoming, Montana, North Dakota, and explored those areas. And when I look at those areas, I look and I kind of say, okay, what are my interests? What do I want to see? Who am I going to travel with? Are there people that I want to go with that are going to go on trips out there? Are there interesting things that I want to do that are out there? So it may vary. Yours may vary as well, depending on your network, where you live. Whether you want to go solo or not also goes into that equation, right? So I got to look at that when you take the equation is, am I going on a solo trip? If I'm going on a solo trip, it's probably not going to be as remote or tough or lack of communication. If I'm going to combine those two, I got to be able to talk to people. I've been planning my 2023 for some time. So like long ago, over 2 years ago, I saw a video on the Rimrocker Trail. It's 190 miles of trail that goes from Montrose, Colorado, all the way to Moab. It's been on my bucket list and it's been on my list for a while. So I've been contemplating that. I was chatting with some friends around a campfire, and one of my other friends, Taylor, which you've heard me mention before, said, you know what, I want to do this trip. And Tim wanted to jump in. Well, I know in that area it's a long trip, right? 10 hours just to get to Colorado, then another 3 or 4 days, and then if we're going to be in Moab, we might also play on it. So when I looked at it, I'm like, all right, this has got to be a 10-day trip. What's along the way that I can go see? So I'm going to use that as an example today. So back to the power of 3, right? So I use 3 criteria when I'm planning a trip: geography, adventure, and how much PTO I'm gonna have. Why does geo go first and not time off? You may be asking yourself. I look at geo first because I want to be able to say, okay, what along the way can I go see? So when I looked at the geo of Colorado, there's some adventures that I want to take along the way, which we're going to meet people on. Then, what's the adventure? As I mentioned, is it going to be remote? If it's a remote, is it going to be where I have no communication? If there's no communication, am I going to be solo? Things like that I have to take into account. So I look at the adventure. And then time off. I can schedule my route, the adventure, around that time off. And so I use that 3 framework to kind of give me some foundation of how I can go plan. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go in the house into the bear den, and we're going to look at some of the tools I use, some of the things I have. And I'm using Rim Rocker as my example here and show you some of the ways I found it. I might even share the route with you so you'll get that out of the video. Thanks. Come on in the bear den with me.
All right, there's some different ways to find trails and find different places to go. One of the most common for me is YouTube. I'll just find trails I want to do through YouTube. I'll find different places to go explore. It's mostly how I find where I want to go. So I have an idea. I want to go to the Rim Rocker, right? So what do I do, right? So here's what I do: is I've created this monster spreadsheet. Not a spreadsheet. This is an application called ClickUp. And what you do at ClickUp is I've created categories, right? So I have scheduled, I have research, I have idea stage, and there's several other stages in here that I can do to add to, right? So if I want to click here and I want to manage different statuses, I can do that. Here's all my statuses: scheduled, preparation, unpacking, trip in process. So as I do this, they actually all have different tasks and stuff like that. This also, believe it or not, links up to my Google Calendar, so I can also see these all in my Google Calendar, and they map up. So as I'm starting to plan this, it goes into my Google Calendar. That's why I love software, right? Because I'm not clicking and putting things in different places, and I can share it, right? So let's talk about what I do, right? So I take the idea stage, as you see here. I'm going through that. You'll see idea stage is what type of trip it is, what's the progress plan. You can see many of these haven't started. What status is it? This is the status it's in. Number of rigs max. You can see this one's 6 days planned. It's an out-of-state trip I'm working on. The schedule. Number of rigs, I'd like to keep it to 6. Number of days planned, it's 10 days. Here's the date. This is actually a calculated field off of these two, so I just put in the dates. It tells me how much. I don't like to think, so this is what I don't have to think about. Again, it's assigning me, and here's this task I have to do at this stage, right? I got to do all these things, so I kind of know what I have to do. Again, maybe a little over planning for many of you, but this is actually how I start my plans, from an idea all the way through to create some solidification. I'd love to hear what you guys do for that. And the next, we're going to come into what do I do when I want to map and route of different areas. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Rim Rocker. I'm going to open that up and share it with you. Alright, as I mentioned, we're going to stick with the Rim Rocker trail and kind of just, take you through how I continue to plan a trip, what I do, what I look for. So you'll see here the Rim Rocker, again, has a lot of information out there, including this interactive map, which I absolutely love. Hopefully it'll load in time for us, and I can show it to you. So I like it when things like this, as you'll see here, different layers. This is the Rim Rocker as a whole. Can take you through there, right? So that's great. I know the trail. I can download the GPS of the Rim Rocker. I kind of have some different routes. Like I'd almost like to want to go explore this loop and bring that down. We may do that depending on time. I'm kind of, we'll figure it out. I'll figure out what that's gonna be like. We may go do Burrow Creek. I don't know. I'm still exploring that piece of it to finalize my map. But the first thing I do is I'll download all this information and kind of start planning out my trip, right? So what does that look like, right? So I know we're going to have to go from Rapid City to Montrose, right? That's the first stop. So what does that look like? Well, I'm a big believer, and I don't like to drive 12 hours a day. Driving that much wears me out. And plus, it's not really the part of the adventure I really like is driving on the highway. But it is a necessity as you travel, right? So what I did is I broke the first 2 days out, and I found some wild camping spot using iOverlander, and you'll see the links to iOverlander here. So I can go and say, okay, we're going to stay at the Quarry Wild spot, right? So start there. What does that look like? And in my video that I have linked below or linked in this, you can see how to go use iOverlander and tools like that to do that. Second one is go stay at BLM, right? And what day is that going to be, right? And what that's going to look like. So those two, that's 11 hours. It's 2 days down, but we've also traveled 800 miles, and this is right at the beginning of Rimrocker. So now we can go to say, okay, if somebody wants to drive 10 miles or drive 12 hours in one day and meet us at BLM, fine, they can do that. Or if they want a caravan, which most people are, they can do that too. And then I start breaking out the trip. This also helped Tim when he was scheduling, because we sat down, we set it all. I kind of set up the GPS points. When you're mapping and routing creating your route in whatever tool you're using, Gaia or Garmin, that's great. I would start at the basics. What does your overall plan look like? What do all the things you want to see before you go put it in Gaia or whatever, right? That's the beauty of starting at a good framework and then pulling it into the app you have to continue the framework, right? So I think, this part is a tool I use for planning that'll help you out and, really helps you be organized, create that plan and create that and then put it in the route, whatever tool you want to do, right? So what I want to talk about next is how do you share? What do you do? And how do I manage all that? So I'm going to do that here in a moment. We covered the idea stage, we've covered the planning stage, and now we're going to go through the sharing stage. How do you get everybody on the same page of what you want to do? First of all, being a trail leader is no easy task. So take it for the brave at heart if you want to do it. All right, so how do we share a trip? So again, going to bring Rimrocker forward. So what I've done is I've shared that, hey, this is Rimrocker, shared this map and various other maps, put together a plan, said, okay, here's the dates I want to go. And I basically went on our page and shared what the Rimrocker plan is. I shared all my plans, first of all, and asked who wanted to go early and said, okay, it's a year in advance. I don't need everybody to tell me a hard yes, but I'd love to just get a show of hands and say, hey, yeah, I'm interested. I did. I've had a show of hands for almost every trip that I'm on, or I'm leading, or I'm attending. That's great. Now, as time gets closer, I'll start to solidify who's going to go and understand that 50% are going to drop off. That's just the nature of it. Life happens, and, that's fine. And usually it comes out to be about 4 or 5 rigs that actually attend a trail. Then I bring it forward, right? I share the map. I'm like, okay, this is what we're doing for the Rimrocker. This is the areas we're staying as I get closer to the date. Usually about 4 months out, I'll say, okay, let's have a trip meeting for those that are definitely going to come. Let's start talking. Let's move it forward and solidify the plan. Kind of wrap everything up. First of all, enjoy the outdoor activity, right? You don't have to be so detail-oriented. You don't have to be so granular about it. The main thing is we're all getting out to have fun, right? We're getting out to go out and explore, live those pillars and enjoy it, right? So living the pillars of success is really important. We want to make sure we get out and enjoy the journey, have that childlike curiosity, and explore, embrace the adventure, right? Make sure we have those three. And then with the outdoor activity, make sure that, you just, when you're planning it, make sure it's fun for everybody. Don't be so rigorous where you have to do that. And that stuff's going to happen. You're going to have blown tires. You may have a rig that breaks. You may have something else. You adapt and you overcome. Go out, enjoy the journey, learn, and explore. In conclusion, I think the one thing that you can't forget when you're planning out your 2024 is leave room for flexibility.
It's about having fun. It's not about being rigorous. It's not about being mandating how you go, where you go, who you see. It's about just getting out there, exploring, having that childlike curiosity, and having fun on a trail. I hope you learned something from today's video. It was all about just sharing what my ideas are and how you plan multi-trips throughout the year, how you get ready for a prosperous 24, and it's just getting ready and getting out there and having fun. Again, I'd love to hear what you do to plan for your trips over the year, and I'd love to hear how you plan, what you've gained from this video. And please remember to like and subscribe. Thanks. Take care.